are getting absolutely ridiculous in the Commander format. I can't even begin to count the number of times someone's played an unassuming land and run away with the value on its text. Problem is, in the vast majority of tables, being bracket 3, it outlines that mass land destruction is not allowed. Doubled with the fact that the old Commander philosophy of no mass land destruction whatsoever, it just feels like this resource in Magic has just been allowed to run free. But I wanted to use a Reddit post in this video to guide our discussion here, why we need to be able to handle lands in our Commander format, and we need to do it now before it goes too far. Now, let me just start this video off by saying I am not advocating for just mass land destruction in bracket 3. I'm not saying we should be playing Armageddon in our casual games, but we should be playing more single target land destruction. And this was a post from 3 days ago saying lands are ridiculous. To be fair, the content is a little off topic, but I think it relates. It says, I feel like whenever I have an idea for a new deck, I put in cards I want and the price for all of them is fair, and then I feel like it's all good. Then I add lands and the price just skyrockets. I feel like more than 75% of my budget for a new deck is just going to the lands. Am I crazy, or is something going on, and is this something the community struggles with? I've traded and sold so many cards in my years with this hobby. Never once have I sold or traded away a land card. I totally understand where you're coming from. I used to play competitive Magic, competitive Legacy in the 2010s. When I took a break, I sold all my duels. I don't have a lot, but I have a playset of blah, blah, blah. I remember selling them at 100, 200. Oh, Lord, the price of an underground sea now. The price of an underground sea now. Oh my Lord. Hey, back when we were in the 5th grade or whatever, we should have just been buying 10 properties and dual lands, I guess, versus whatever the heck we're doing now on YouTube. But regardless, the prices of lands are high, and this is because lands are good. I think a lot of people forget how good the resource system is in Magic. And coming from other TCGs, Lorcana, One Piece, where they've opted to quote unquote solve the mana system that Magic has had. And a lot of people call it a problem, but it actually is a boon for Magic. It is part of the skill curve of the game. Getting flooded is a good thing. Losing or not having mana is a good thing. It teaches you something about deck building, about risk reward, about chances. And using then those resources that you have for extra added ability adds to the power of the game. And so rightfully so, many lands should be priced up, but with that in mind, they should also be answered. I mean, take a look at some of these lands that we have, like Reliquary Tower, like really break down how powerful this card is. You have no maximum hand size, comes in untapped and taps for a land. You don't have to pay mana for this. And you can just to get the land out, but it doesn't cost anything. It just adds a mana. It doesn't come in tapped or anything. Like, look at everything else. Like, there is no other land that does this for you. You have no maximum hand size. You have random cards that may or may not do this. You know, you have Curiosity Crafter. Let's think of some common cards. Crew Fix is a relatively common one. Nezahal. We have Praetor's Council, which is a fun top end. Spellbook is just a 0 mana artifact that I guess you can Urza Saga out if you want. Seagate Restoration if you're casting it for its front side. The flip side of Tameo, like the ultimate helps you get there. Like, there's so many random cards that cost so much more. Thought Vessel, actually a relatively played, very common ramp piece, says you have no maximum hand size. This is probably a second problem with this. But regardless, nothing is as easy and as free as the Reliquary Tower. And so when you come up against like the AC player, for example, and I'm bringing up AC because I just played against AC the other day, super sweet deck. And for those of you that don't know, I'm just gonna bring it up here. So AC Tyrant of Gyre Strait, you may play an additional land on each of your turns, so it's 6 mana. But whenever a land you control enters, when it just hits the field, so you fetch, you got 2 lands entering, you may draw a card. So obviously it gets to the point where you play a Reliquary Tower out, you're ramping out, you're playing like 4 mana ramp spells, 3 mana ramp spells, you're just getting a lot of lands out, you're just drawing cards for free. And so when it comes to a card like Reliquary Tower, you have to be able to answer something like this. You have to be able to stop it because of its free value. Look at Vault of the Archangel, 4 mana tap it, it's just an anthem. In Orzhov, all creatures you control gain Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. All of a sudden they become the single best blockers, the single best attackers, the single best creatures on the board for 4 mana on a land that does not come in tapped and just taps for a mana. And this card's like cheap too. It's like $40, like 40 cents, 40 bucks, 40 cents, like $1. look at the value that this land has. Look at how much value you have just by keeping this land untapped and having it as a combat trick that you didn't quote unquote have to pay anything for. It's just a value utility land in your slots. World Tree comes in tapped, but if you control 6 or more lands, now your land's tapped for anything? That's just free. You just have to do what you're supposed to do. And lands like this let you do crazy things. And then not to mention the later cost of this, if you have the 4-mana artifact that makes it so all creatures you don't control and like, or whatever, are any type. Imagine World Tree, tap this with that out, search your library for all guard cards, so all your creatures are everything, and you put them onto the battlefield. Like again, lands that just have this type of free value that we're letting it. I mean, look at Mystic Sanctuary, banned in Modern and in Pauper, fetchable because it is an island, a mistake with fetch lands. If you like control 3 or more islands, it could just be an island that you fetch for, but if you control 3 or more, it comes in untapped, and you get an instant or sorcery and put it on top from your graveyard. What? Like, again, I think people forget the number one thing. And I shouldn't say this is number one. This is on the top 5 list of things Commander players don't realize is losing them the game. The value of lands, the incremental value of lands is what's holding a lot of Commander players back. And there's different things like paying attention to life totals, swinging appropriately, just being aggressive. People are just like, oh, I'm not going to swing. I'm not going to do anything. No, swing, advance the board state. Like small things like this hold Commander players back in their ability to win the game and enjoy the game and feel like they had onus. People are like, oh, you just ran away with the game, when instead they could have been attacking that person or just attacking more in general, keeping people at lower life totals and incentivizing other people to be like, oh, you know what, that player is really low. You know, maybe to even it, I'll attack this other person. That creates forward movement. And in that same way, lands do that as well. It's like this value that people forget about. People forget about, you know, that situation where you can punish someone early because they played a bounce line. They look at that activated ability on, if we go back here to the Vault of the Archangel, and they're like, ah, that's not too bad. All of a sudden you're going for an alpha swing and the mana dork has Death Touch and Lifelink, and suddenly your trample doesn't even matter. Everything you control dies. They lifelink their way out of the board. They untap and they're able to win the game or stabilize. Board white, farewell, because you're in white. The amount of value that lands have, so many people underestimate, and they're held back by the fact that additionally, mass land destruction is just banned in the format, right? So before we had the idea that mass land destruction should not be in the Commander format whatsoever. It's just seen against, unless you're at high power tables. But that doesn't mean that single target land removal shouldn't be in the game as well. And that's a lot harder to push against something like Mystic Sanctuary, because it is just an effect that you get when it enters the field. But when you take a look at even like the top lands that are played, obviously we start at basics and we go into shocks and everything, but there's a fair amount of utility lands that we see play that can be stopped rather easily. And again, just highlighting the fact that in the updated image of the bracket system, we see in bracket 3, where I believe the vast majority of players are, and you know, kind of 3 and 4, no mass land denial, but that doesn't mean you can't play single target land removal. And I think a lot of people need to normalize the idea of destroying people's lands, especially utility lands. You don't need to target people's basics if you don't want to. We don't need to just mass play, you know, strip mine over and over again. But we can deal with people's utility lands, because those are the things just as valuable as creatures these days, just as valuable as spells. When you think about the channel lands are abilities on lands. They cannot be countered in the traditional ways. It's just, imagine having uncounterable effects, an uncounterable bounce spell on Otawara, a effect that destroys an artifact, enchantment, land, whatever on a Boseiju. Quote unquote uncounterable effects on lands, just lands becoming more and more powerful. And obviously that's a spell in hand. You have to go through other means to deal with that. But when they're on the field, they have powerful effects as well. And we need to be ready for that. And does that mean we don't play Blood Moon? I think Blood Moon has a place in bracket 3. I think we should be playing Blood Moon in our bracket 3 decks. I have a bracket 3 Ragavan deck, and I think I should be playing Blood Moon in it. Especially in mono red, I should be playing Magus of the Moon. If you don't like Blood Moon, I should be playing Magus of the Moon in here, because this is a creature. If you have a problem with this card, play removal. I'm being so honest. If you cannot deal with a 2/2 with static text, you built your deck wrong. If you are in bracket 3, bracket 4, and you cannot deal with a creature with static text and a 2/2, you have built your deck wrong. If you're in bracket 3 without basics, you built your deck wrong. It just there, you have to be ready for stuff like that. Unless you're maybe like 5 colors, maybe 4 colors, I could see it. But if you're in 2 and 3 and you're not playing basics, I don't know what you're doing. I genuinely don't know what you're doing, unless your commander really calls for it, but I still can't even think of a scenario with it. You should be able to answer cards like this in these brackets. And of course, bracket 3 holds these ones back even more, but single target removal like Ghost Quarter. Again, a land that comes in untapped, you can grab anything, and in a way, it gets less hate because you get a basic. Okay, what about Field of Ruin? Now, Field of Ruin is now a group hug card, because you have the fixed Field of Ruin that only lets the player you target and yourself get a basic, but Field of Ruin is the unfixed one where in Commander, you destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls, and then each player, regardless of the person you targeted or yourself, each player grabs a basic. And so it's ramp for those players. So it's a group hug card. This card has more application. You can help the table. You can gain the benefit, the benevolence of the other players and be like, hey, you know what? I can deal with that land and I can even get y'all more cards. Just don't swing at me for a turn. Bet, Field of Ruin. Single target land removal. It hits non-basics too. You can't even hit basics with this. Whereas Ghost Quarters, you can hit basics with this. So if you really wanted to hate someone out, they only have 1 basic, I guess you could go for that in terms of that. Acidic Slime, a great flicker target, artifact, enchantment, or land. Flexibility. You can hit the land, and notably, you can hit basics with this. You can hit basics with it. If you go into flicker shenanigans, if you start ephemerating this thing and you hit my basics, I might hate you for it, but you know, game recognizes game. Good on you. Assassin's Trophy. If you're in these colors, why aren't you playing Assassin's Trophy? It's just a catch-all. Destroy any permanent, planeswalker, enchantment, artifact, whatever, even a land, and then the opponent looks for a basic. Play Assassin Trophy. Get rid of your opponent's lands. Generous Gift. If you're in white, generally you're destroying permanents. There isn't necessarily, I believe, a card that says destroy target land in white. But in this case, they get a 3/3 Green Elephant. Great. You destroy their land. You destroy their Field of the Dead, which is now a game changer. They get a 3/3. Cool. You get 1.5 of those zombies that you would have made, I guess. White Orchid Phantom, more recently printed in Modern Horizons 3, enters, destroys target non-basic land. It could be your non-basic land, of course, if you needed to for whatever reason. Get that in your graveyard or replay it for some reason, I don't know. And then its controller searches the library for a basic land, put it into play tapped. Again, destroy target land in something like this. And then Befoul, again in black. Yes, there actually are black cards. I believe Choking Sands is the card that says destroy target land. I think if it's a snow land, they lose 1 life. Is that Choking Sands? Someone correct me in the comment section. But Befoul, sorcery speed, destroy target land or non-black creature. Regular removal, sorcery speed, it cannot be regenerated. If you wanted a little bit of flexibility in your lower power deck, you're probably not playing this in bracket 3, but in your bracket, or in bracket 4, in your bracket 3 deck though, this is perfectly reasonable. Depending on your build, this is actually perfectly reasonable. Cleansing Wildfire, sweet card for all my Pauper players out there. You already know your Cleansing Wildfire, your indestructible lands to ramp. This draws you a card, it replaces itself, it gives your opponent a basic, it's destroy target basic or non-basic. Great variability. Obviously, I'm only highlighting these because we all know red has the land destruction spell, so I'm trying to give some utility. Raise is a fun one too. This is actually a sweet one, even in Pauper as well. This is a great way to like get rid of your own extra land. So as a mono red player, like in Pauper especially, even in Constructed all throughout, you probably don't need more than like 3 lands. And so if you have extra, you can raise that, sacrifice a land, and then destroy target land on your opponent's side. Destroy their Urza's Tower for just the little sack of your own. So you pay for it, destroy the land that you use to pay for this, destroy their non-basic. Raise is a fun one. If you had graveyard synergies in your own commander deck, Raise is a great way to get lands that you already control into your graveyard to replay. Annex is a fun one. Annex in blue. You can bounce permanents, obviously in blue, but you can enchant a land and you can control the land. And this is ultimately why lands are ridiculous. They're only ridiculous, and obviously they're expensive because they're useful, but in a gameplay pattern, in a gameplay sense, they're ridiculous because no one answers them. No one wants to play land destruction because people confuse mass land destruction in single target land removal. Single target removal for just creatures is fine, but all of a sudden for lands, we can't touch them. But then people are running away with the free value that lands give you for just playing them. And sometimes even just meeting a meek condition of having 6 or more lands, like doing what you're supposed to do, you just get more value. We used to have to work for things like this. And so this is where my problem with the commander community is around land destruction. Sure, there's a conversation to be had around mass land destruction, but single target land destruction? We should be playing way more and doing better as a community to promote the use of single target land destruction.